Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Hungry Creative Podcast. My name is Mo, and your host for today. Today, we have someone who is, I think your work is probably like one of the first architectural photography studio in Nigeria. And when you see images of buildings portrayed in a certain aesthetically pleasing way, there's a high chance that our guest for today is the one behind the scenes capturing these images. So I would like her to introduce herself.
My name is Tolulope Sanusi. I'm an architect and a photographer. Primarily, I'm an architect first and foremost, but most people know me as a photographer. That's how most people know me, how most people see me online. But I'm an architect, and although I'm not practicing, I still love architecture and the environment, the design, the aesthetics. That's always been my focal point. So I guess my photography just stems from that laws is design, environment, and the built environment around us, basically. That's me in a nutshell. Kind of.
Well, you in a nutshell. It's good to hear. To put a face to your work. I'm sure a lot of people have seen your pictures, but they just don't know who the person behind the camera is.
Two or three photos of myself on my timeline. Well, the entire timeline.
I know. I saw. A lot of people have done great stuff, like in terms of like construction, design, architecture, but it wasn't as well documented as you have now done it. As I feel like more people are now starting to do this as well. So you have buildings that have these, unique characters or unique elements or unique features that people pass by, but they just cannot appreciate it as well as when you capture it in a certain way. And I think that's like one of the things that your work has brought to Nigeria, and also putting Nigeria on the map, because people might feel like we don't really have architecture going on here as much.
That's true, because we barely take photos.
I also feel like you started doing it at a point where it wasn't like a mainstream practice. It wasn't like a thing that was popular. It wasn't a popular practice with.
No, there wasn't. People were not. It wasn't a niche the way people have portraits, wedding, baby shower, birthday. Architecture was not a niche like that when I started, because people didn't see the importance. Oh, once you have a camera, you just shoot. It's fine. And when I was like, well, we have magazines and we have a whole other world outside Nigeria. Why don't we have that here? So that was the vision to start, actually. Like, let us present ourselves the way we want to, because you go on international websites for architecture design and you barely saw anything about Nigeria. You type Nigeria, maybe 2 articles, and they're renders. No actual photos of projects. So if you're not from inside Nigeria, you think that we still live in mud houses. Because architecture was there was no evidence on the global stage of architecture. So I was like motivated, like, it's not like we don't have projects. Maybe the photos are just not telling enough to be published. So that's where it started.
Yeah, I feel like that's true. That's so true. How you've evolved into becoming, this person who you are now, like having all this great work that you've done. I'm sure you didn't just, it wasn't like an overnight success. How did you become so good at it? How did you find yourself in this space, and how did you grow into becoming this kind of, expert in this industry?
I introduced myself at the beginning as an architect. So I started out as an architect. After graduating from ULAV, I did my MSc and I did my BSc and I did my MSc. And then I started working in an office, designing clients, interiors, offices and stuff like that. But then I realized that along the way that yes, we have good projects, but when you're done with the projects and you see the photos, you're like, the photos don't tell any story of the efforts, because it's one thing to design, it's another thing to actually bring that design into the real world with all the challenges, working on sites, art stands, sourcing materials, making sure everything comes in. The whole effort, drama, stress, it can take months. then the photos come out and they're meh, or they are wonky, dark, dingy, and I'm like, this is not. If you saw the photos, you would think that it's an old project, and I'm like, no, my efforts cannot be put such a like washed out way. Like, okay, they just want photos just for photos, and you just have some no. So that was like, okay. When I'm doing research for clients' work, like, okay, they have a brief. Let's bring up concepts. And I go online and I see the projects I can reference online. I'm like, why can't we have this standard here? Like, why can't we do this standard? That's when I actually checked around and realized there was, at that point, I was 2017. I could not find any dedicated architecture. I don't mean, oh, he does weddings, he does portraits, and then he does architecture on this. I mean, strictly architecture. I couldn't really find anybody. Everybody either had it as an add-on to what they were doing. So maybe there's a niche for this where you have somebody who is a trained architect, knows how to portray what just the way someone like me, if I'm hiring a photographer, would want it to be portrayed. So yeah, so from my office, I kind of started taking photos with my phone, and then it got to a point where I transitioned into getting a camera, and then I left full-time work. So that process took about 2.5 years, actually. From that period where I realized, okay, maybe there's something here, to actually going in fully, about 2.5 years. So basically, it was passion-driven. They say, oh, don't follow your passion might not lead you to a nice place, but I followed my passion, and it kind of panned out, sort of, which is bisexual.
From being an architect, you evolved to becoming a photographer. I remember you said you found yourself taking pictures with your phone initially, and then you moved into now taking pictures with like a camera. Did you always know you were going to do photography, or become a photographer?
I liked photography. I liked the idea of being a freelancer, managing your own time, managing your own finances. But the photography that was popular at that point was obviously events, weddings, portraits, baby shower, and all those did not appeal to me. I don't have the energy or the strength to do wedding photography where you have to wake up at insane hours, leave the event place at dead of night, then edit like a madman for like 2 days, send it out. I did not have that energy, and I'm not really good with managing people, because the thing with portrait photography is you need to be a people person. You need to be able to make people laugh, show emotion. If you can't do that, then you can't be a portrait photographer. I don't have that.
Gotcha.
I don't have people patience. So when I realized that architecture photography is a niche of its own, and the people you are interacting with are not necessarily your subject. It's the people who design or own the space. So that's a difference. You're not trying to make them laugh or trying to evoke emotion. This is a more formal, or in some cases informal discussion. So it's easier to manage people like I relate with, like my clients. And then my subject is no more. The only thing that I need to worry about is the weather. That's all.
True.
Literally, that's all.
True.
My subject is not moving. I'm the one moving. As long as everything is set by the client, it's all good. Except if the weather is up and about. It won't take the entire day. It's rare that I shoot for the entire day. Like, the project has to be read, and then those projects obviously be over multiple days, because it's a few projects are like entire buildings, but that's rare. So my average days, I start my shoot by 10, by 2 o'clock I'm done.
Really?
Yeah.
Looking back at your work in previous years, obviously you've gotten so much better at like this thing at architectural photography. What would you say you've done to really like grow and become like way better at this, at this thing?
Okay, so you asked 2 questions actually.
Yes.
So the
What
first
did
one
you do?
is,
And what would you advise? Yeah.
So the people I focus on are photographers I admire who are outside the country. Most of them are either based in the US, some are based in Australia, or some are based in Europe. They are like the top 5% of photographers in the entire world. And I mean, the projects that they do are like billion-dollar projects. So those are the kind of what I look at. I'm not looking at any photographer anywhere around me because their level is global. These are photographers that are called, they work in Hong Kong, they travel to Australia, they are in the US today, they are in Norway tomorrow. So the way they photograph, the way they present, the way they work, I follow them either on social media or some of them have YouTube channels where they show their process, how they work with their clients or how they edit certain maybe challenging shoots and stuff like that. So it's following those kind of people and just seeing how they work, how they manage their business, they manage clients, and how they get clients. That's actually how I got better, because you compare what you're doing, what they're doing. The location might be, but in terms of technicalities, quite similar. So if I say, okay, this is how they achieve image and I want to achieve that image, I just find how they did it. So that's actually how I was just growing step by step by step. So there was no I gave myself the steps. There's no step that anybody can give you. There's no pathway. There's no defined pathway because
manual.
There's no roadmap. So it's you. How good do you want to become? If you are okay where you are, I'm not okay where I am. So the people that I can see that ahead of me that are doing projects, I want to be there, and I need to see how they are doing it. So that's part of how I got better and better and better. Then the second one on how to get in, I started with my phone. Started taking photos of Lagos with my phone. As I was in the bus, if I'm going to work, I just take a snap through the bus window or through the car window, starting with places around you. Easily photograph without. Nigeria and Lagos is a special place. You can't just photograph places without being. So you have to be environmental conscious if you're, especially in Lagos. So that's one thing I would advise you to be cautious.
Say that again.
Be cautious of your be cautious of your environment. You don't just bring out your phone and just take photos anyway. If it's an environment where you live and they have nice architecture, I'm sure you're familiar with the environment, you can start from there. But with someone you're not familiar with, maybe just take a quick snap. And it's taking photos every day, even if you don't get to post them on Instagram or you don't post them anywhere. It's that process of doing it every day, get a little bit better. The weather, another thing you notice, the weather changes. If you see one building today in February, if you see that same building in November, the lighting is different. It might come out very different. So taking photos every day. Even if it's of the same, because if you look through my Instagram, I have repeat photos of the same building at different times of the year. So that in itself is a story. You can just take a building that you are familiar with, or maybe you walk in that environment and you pass it every day, and take that building, just that building for the next 6 months and see how the environment, the weather changes, the way the building looks, even the environment itself, how it changes. That in itself, it's by the time you are doing that, you'll be able to see better. And that's the trick to getting into using having a way that you see that is unique to you, that people are willing to pay for your perspective.
I like it. I like what you just said, because it's also like an artist. Like, when an artist is painting, you're
like
just
that style,
seeing the world through their eyes. Through their eyes, like how they see it, how it's been communicated. So are you saying it's the same thing for architectural photography?
Yes, even if it's the same thing for other types of photography. You have sorry, I'm not really familiar with a lot of names in the portrait or wedding space, but there are some photographers that have a following because of their style. Yes, there are a million and one wedding photographers, but the top 5% each have a unique style, and people are willing to pay for that style. So developing the way you see
that's actually
the
true.
world is the way you make a name, carve your niche, and make more. That's basically it.
That's so true. That's so true. Hearing that is, that makes a lot of sense. So for someone listening to this episode and listening to this podcast, and maybe they've been trying their hands on, taking pictures here and there, and they are probably thinking of making, getting better at it. Maybe they're using their phones. I have a couple friends that do that. They use their phones to take pictures of buildings and just landscape, or just maybe like, the environment. Yeah, and they're thinking of, they're feeling like, I think there's something here for me. What would you think would be the next step for someone that has been taking pictures with their phone, just taking with their phone? Do you think they should go and get a camera, or do you think they should go and take a course, or do you think they should? What do you think they should do? What should be the next step for them?
It depends on where they want. Okay, the thing is, yes, you've been taking photos with your phone, but where do you want to be? The reason I ask that question is, there are different types of photographers, different types of styles. Some photographers, like, there's a very popular one on Instagram. It's an actor, Iwaban. I think that's his Instagram name. He takes mobile only, iPhone only, at picture photographs. And he has made a name for himself. Some people do landscape. I mean, not architecture per se, but cityscape. Obviously, they would use drones primarily.
Yeah.
Or because landscape in itself in Nigeria is not very well defined. But if you're talking of like, what I do, then getting a camera is the next step. Getting a full, like a proper camera with interchangeable lens is the next step. And then not just getting, because you can have a camera and to be sitting in your house collecting dust. Start going out for excursions. I know there are a few architecture excursions in November every year. I think Open House Lagos. So go for a couple of Open House Lagos excursions where they take you to buildings. You go on a photo walk through various buildings in Lagos. You may go through churches, office buildings. They do it every year in November. So you can go for the 2 days. It's usually a 2-day event, and you go through multiple sites in Lagos, depending on how your time is. So targeting events like that where you can go for photo walk would help you get used to using your camera, because your phone is readily available. But when you need to step into the place, you need to be as good with your camera as you are with your phone. So you need to be taking. The thing is, your phone is already edited. Your phone has already edited photos, except you just want to do extra. Your camera is most of the time unedited. So that learning curve of getting good with your camera is the next step, because your phone already has a polished look. It has a look already. Getting that look with camera is a totally different thing. That's the next learning stage. Using not just your phone, but now doing it with your camera.
There's some things that will definitely go into creating these masterpieces that you've done. What is that one thing that happens behind the scenes that most people don't know?
It's tasking. Physically tasking. And you need to have, it's physically, because the subject is not moving. You are the one moving. So to get all those angles, you have to be moving constantly, moving through the different spaces, looking through different angles and stuff like that. So if I'm doing a shoot from, let's say, 10 to 4 p.m., I'm on my feet the entire time. There's no sitting down. You have to be on your feet the entire time. Yeah, so that's the first thing that
must have strong calves.
when anybody's assisting
Strong
me,
ties and
they usually
cows.
complain that their feet hurt, and I'm like, yeah, that's about right. and that's for a shoot that it's just essential. If you're not like, there was a shoot I was doing the Microsoft ADC office at Kingstar before they closed it. So 6 floors.
I saw that.
6 floors. I think I did 20 something thousand steps that day.
Jeez.
Yeah. And then I imagine how to drive after.
Do you have a special workout routine? Special workout routine for intending architectural photographers. Maybe you want to share.
Just basic, your basic stretches. And just if you have a full day, just take painkillers. Because I can't. There's nothing else to recommend.
Wow.
There's no exercise.
Okay. That's a good one. That's a good one.
Comfortable shoes.
That's a good one. I didn't see that coming. I didn't expect that at all. That's so random yet so important.
Very important. You don't think about it though. Comfortable shoes. Super comfortable shoes. Like, most people don't expect you to be running around, but at some point you will be running around. Let me give you an example. If you are in an office environment, office space, and it's floor to ceiling glass all around. If the sun comes in on one side, maybe you're shooting on the other side. But then you have to quickly run to the other side of the building to get that one shot where the sun is at the right angle. So even if you are shooting in one space, you still have to check other spaces to see how the light is affecting those spaces. So that's where you get a lot of this in. Because you're not just sitting in one place taking environment. You have to keep checking because light changes how you perceive a space, and it can go from just okay to wonderful if the light hits just right.
That's so interesting. These are so much gems you're dropping, man. I hope our listeners are taking notes.
I hope they are.
I'm just like picturing how you need. Imagine you have a multi-story building, like you said, like 6 floors, and you are having to run outside, inside, elevator, up, down.
So the Stanbic headquarters at VI, one at Bonny Camp, that is like 12 floors. So we came in the morning around 9. We are on the 5th floor, and then
I'm actually looking at it right now. Yeah,
I was thinking, okay, the sun is on one side of the building, I need it to be on the other side. So we waited till like 1 p.m. Then we dropped what we're doing, went downstairs, went all the way up the parking garage. There's no lift, so you have to take all the steps up to the 5th floor, leave your parking garage, do the drone. When you are done with the drone shot, because the light is now on that side of the building, drop it, come back down, go back into the main building. Once the sun now hits maybe 4 p.m., 5 p.m. when the sun is warm and is low, so you have that nice. You have to repeat that. Go outside, do the drone, come back. Yeah, it's all to get the nicest photos.
Wow, that's a lot. That's a lot. I'm sure most people don't know this. Most people, I'll confess. Let me just own up myself. Let me own up myself right now. I'll confess. I just assumption, even though I don't have like an active thought process, I just assume you go there, put up your drone, take the shot, you get the shot, and you go home. And you go and edit it.
It was only that simple.
I did not imagine. I mean, I think I look at it from the way
most people look at
capture like people like inside, like interior or like is it the same for interior photography?
No, so the interior is dependent on the space. If it's a space that has only artificial light, yeah, good. You can just move from space to space. Or if the client wants, there's a project on my website. It's an office space. I would studio Elemental's office. So if you click on it, you open it. There's a photo of the main.
I think I know their building that has that screen. Is it that one?
Yes, that's the building. So that space, the light comes in onto the wall, onto the space at a 45-degree angle at a certain point of the year, at a certain time of the day. So we had to plan so that the light comes in just at the, because if you see the photos of that space, the light is perfect. But we had to time that perfect light because it only happens when the sun is obviously clear day, and then the sun is maybe, I think it was either March or April. That was a perfect time to take that photo.
Okay, so do you think that your work, how much is so I know some people say that the raw picture itself has a certain there's a certain percentage of how much editing has versus the raw image. So like, how much does editing influence the output, the final outcome of the picture you're trying to take?
Very light, very, very minimal. So the very, very minimal. I mean, I like to shoot as close to the finished as possible. I like to do all my editing or effects in camera, and then the minor thing I'll adjust is maybe I need to clean up something, I need to adjust my angle just a bit, and then that's all. And maybe correct for some maybe cooler light or warmer lights. Very minimal at this. I don't do so much post-processing. So my post-processing is cleaning up and just making sure the colors come out as in person, because the thing with interior is they've selected the colors, the tones, the lights for a specific reason. So you have to make sure the photo is as close to what you can see as possible. So that's so you can't do a little crazy.
Okay.
You can't finish, because the lights usually come in calibrated colors. So you have warm white, cool white. You don't want to change that because the person has selected those lights for a reason. So the edits are minimal as possible, so that it's as true to. So the photos you see on my work is almost as true to life. So you should step into the space. That's how it will look. In
your creative process, do you think, or has architecture had an influence on your style or on your process, or just has it influenced anything in your work?
Yes, a lot. It influenced the way I see projects. So as I'm a trained architect, I see it from the perspective of someone, the person who designed the space, and when they communicate, I can step into their shoes and imagine it where they want it presented. So that helps a lot, because you don't need to explain too much. Already I'm in the field already. You just need minimal explanation and we can see almost eye to eye on most things. So it helped a lot.
Okay, because I saw some of your work. And it got me thinking that I think you were influenced by. I can see some architecture emphasis here. Through like some of these design practices. Some balance, some emphasis on some features on the building. Some reflection, some rhythm. Some perspective. I can see a little bit of architecture play there. So yeah, my next question will be that, is it possible for someone, I don't know so much in this industry, but do people that are not trained architects also practice architectural photography?
Yes. It just takes a bit more effort on your part. That's usually where the problem is most times. It's not that photographer is not good, is that the client or the photographer did not communicate and agree on an outcome. So the photographer is thinking one thing and the client is thinking one thing, and then when the shoot is done, they're like, no, that's not what I thought. So if you are not an architect or not that space, then you actually have to teach yourself what is architecture about, what the interior designers like to see in their photos. Like, you have to teach yourself that on that industry, like what is design, what are the important parts of design, interior design, architecture design, even if it's just basics, so that when client is speaking to you, you can visualize what they are saying, and then you guys can be easier to communicate what they want as a final output. Because it's one thing to say, okay, I had a videographer, but for them to keep coming back to you, they must be able to feel, oh, I just need to say a few things and they've gotten what I want.
That's true. That's true. I think it applies to other fields as well. Even design. We've always been presenting design from year one. If you don't present it well, your design can be amazing, but you still have to present it. You still have to do jury. Mostly, we've seen more men in the photography and creative space in terms of like design, in terms of architecture, in terms of most creative practices, except maybe like fashion, and other similar genres. And we're now seeing more women, come and become more involved in things like this, photography, music, even music as well. Like here in Africa is male dominated, becoming artists, and it's a continuing trend. So have you had any challenges as a woman in this industry? Have you had any challenges being able to break through this industry, especially being like one of the first people to do this like professionally?
Yes, it's male dominated because our culture is male dominated. Let's put it that way. So my name is Tolu. Obviously, when people see my profile and they hear my name, they assume a man. They assume male. They don't think it's a woman that is saying it. So except I posted it, so like, really? Oh, okay. So it's a
That's true. Are you leaving that place? Are you leaving that element of surprise there, just so people don't
I'm just
have?
Leaving. Yeah.
Oh,
so when
I
say
keep getting people surprised.
Everybody's fine.
Wow.
Nobody's assuming.
Wow. That's interesting. That's interesting. Okay, go on.
It's very similar to the challenges of being a female architect. When people hear architect here, Zoom is a man because, well, even in school, that's about 80 people in class and only 10 or 9 were female. So yeah, and most of the females they didn't practice architecture. You can count maybe half of us are practicing. The rest moved to other fields. So it's more of a male focused culture. So even in the office setting, they tend to speak more to the men in the meeting and speak over the women. If I explain it in a non degrading way, but that's what usually happens. People usually speak over women because it's more of a cultural thing. So now you have to go beyond that cultural barrier and assert yourself in a way. So that's the first challenge. You have to be conscious of that. It's not like something you should get annoyed over because it's a cultural thing. Men are usually a discussion in a room full of people. If they're asking questions, they're just the men are asking themselves the question, and not except the woman is the person in charge. She's never usually asked. They never just reference to her. So that's a very subliminal cultural pressure. So that's usually male dominated. Not like the women are not there, but they don't refer a lot to females except specific instances like, okay, maybe they need to bring in a female to tick some boxes. Even if you are very good, it takes a lot to break into male dominated spaces because they're like, I can just call my guy and he'll do the same thing. So it's a more subliminal thing you have to combat, but you have to be aware of it and then just take steps towards it. I think that's the major thing. It's not like they are not women in the space, but you have to fight much harder and be better at what you do for you to be seen as an equal. So you have more work to do in essence. It's not like you can't do it, but you need to do more for you to be seen as an equal. I think it's the same thing that applies. It's not even just creative. even in architecture itself, there are very few female architects, and that's because they don't, in the working environment, the males are the ones that rise faster than females. And that's just a cultural thing. So you just have to be aware of it and that's it, like that. That's way, like it's subtly, because you can't really do it. You can't really flare up or get annoyed. It doesn't solve anything. You just have to be aware of it, and when it happens, you just mildly or subtly correct it, and then you move on.
What do you intend to portray through your pictures?
There's not really a message, but more like a feeling.
Okay.
The point of the photo is to capture that space in the best light possible, such that when you see the photo, when you enter into the space, it's like you are in the space. There's no variance, there's very little variance. So that's the point, as portraying the space as cleanly and as true to life as possible. That's basically.
Okay. It's been nice hearing some of the interesting things that most people don't know about this field. I think the part where you talked about shoes and standing for a long for long hours is something that was going to stick with me for a while. Just have just a bit of this or that for you to answer before we wrap up.
Yep.
So this or that, quick one. Interior or exterior photography?
Interior.
Why?
Exterior it's very weather dependent, and the weather changes in the blink of an eye. So it's more stressful.
Okay. All right. Mobile photography or professional camera?
Professional.
Why?
Because I have more options of how I want the final image to look.
But when you're just in the moment and you don't have your camera, what do you do?
I take out my phone.
Okay, so it depends on the situation.
Yeah.
Okay. Outside or inside?
Inside.
Why?
Your preference was with?
I mean, outside is outside. Like outside, when you're outside. Go out, go to to a lounge, go have some drink, or inside, or stay indoor and watch a movie.
Yeah, stay indoor and play a game.
Oh, what do you play?
I have an Xbox.
You have an Xbox? Wow. Okay, gamer. Okay, gamer. Jollof rice or fried rice?
Jollof rice.
Okay. For the culture. Okay. All right. We've come to the end of the session, and we have a last question for all our guests that come on the episode, that come on the session, which is that, what are you doing to become a better version of yourself?
That's just trying every day to do something new, even if it's just maybe a little technique, and so, even if it doesn't show up on the final work, just trying something slightly different every day.
And this also applies to, this is not just related to work, it's just generally as well. Like, if you have, it doesn't have to be, we just work. If you have an nature, even if it doesn't work, just do it.